Once upon a time, in the ancient lands of Dahomey, where Nigeria, Benin and Togo are today, a special spiritual tradition began. This tradition was called Vodou, which comes from a word meaning God or spirit in the language of the Fon people. It's also known as Vodun or Vodun. Vodou is an old religion starting more than 6,000 years ago in West Africa. It didn't start in the Caribbean like many people think. Around the world, there are over 30 million people who follow Vodou. They believe in many gods and spirits. Their ceremonies include things like offering animals to spirits and letting spirits take over their bodies. Vodou is more than just dolls and pins, curses, or stories of zombies. It believes in one main powerful spirit, like Maulisa for the Fon people, Olorun for the Yoruba, or Bondi and Grand Met in Haiti. One special part of Vodou is when spirits take over people's bodies. This might sound strange, but it's an important way for people to connect with these powerful spirits or their ancestors. During this time, it's like the spirits are riding inside the person and they can communicate and give answers. This is a time when people feel very close to their ancestral spirits. Vodou has been shown in movies in a really exciting way, but it's also been treated badly by some people. It became like souvenirs for tourists in places like New Orleans, but its true history goes way back to West Africa, where it started. This is where the terrible slave trade happened. But Vodou was carried by the people who suffered to faraway lands like Brazil, Haiti, Cuba, and Louisiana. Even after 400 years, the spirit of Vodou still lives strong in the hearts of West Africans. However, there is also a darker side to this story. Some people, known as sorcerers or botono, used bad spirits to harm others with curses. Just like any faith, Vodou also had people who wanted good luck, success, and protection. So you see, Vodou is not just something strange or far away. It's part of how people all around the world look for meaning and connection to the divine or the supernatural world. It's a story that goes from West Africa to different lands, woven with spirits and beliefs, where the sacred and the everyday meet, and where faith opens the door to the unknown.
5 major African tribes that were taken away during the Atlantic slave trade. The Yoruba people were taken from modern-day Nigeria and Republic of Benin to countries such as Brazil, Cuba, and Trinidad and Tobago. The Igbo people, also from Nigeria, were taken to Barbados, Haiti, and Jamaica before being shipped to North America. The Akan people, primarily from present-day Ghana, were taken to Brazil, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago. The Congo people, from the region encompassing modern-day Angola, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the Republic of Congo, were taken to Brazil, Cuba, and Haiti. Lastly, the Mandinka people, from countries such as Senegal, Guinea, and Mali, were taken to countries such as Brazil and the United States. These tribes endured unimaginable suffering and displacement as a result of the transatlantic slave trade, with their descendants now scattered across the Americas and beyond.
Did you know the Haitian Revolution began with a Vodou ceremony? Led by a rebel the French feared more than any general? His name was Dutty Boukman. He wasn't a soldier. He was enslaved. But on one night in 1791, he lit the fire that would burn the French Empire from the inside out. At Bois Cayman, Boukman gathered hundreds of enslaved Africans under the cover of darkness. He called on the spirits. He made a vow, and he led the people into revolt. The very next day, plantations across northern Haiti went up in flames. The revolution had begun. Boukman was captured and killed within months. But the uprising didn't die with him. It spread. It grew. And within 13 years, Haiti became the first black republic in the world. The French mocked Vodou. They called it savage, but they were terrified of its power. Boukman's voice still echoes through history, not because he lived long, but because he lit the match. They tried to demonize him, but what they really feared was unity. Follow Divided Islands to hear the stories that started with fire and ended in freedom.
In Uganda, many politicians secretly consult traditional healers or witch doctors in order to give them an edge in the ballot box. Some fear rivals may use witchcraft against them, leading to superstitious behaviours like avoiding handshakes. Right now, it's election season in Uganda, and this witch doctor's skills are in high demand.
When a person comes and asks me if they will go through or fail, I normally give them some medicine so they can win the election and their opponent will not go through. There are many people coming now because of the election season.
Rose's career began in 1980 after being possessed by a spirit that she said she had to overcome to gain the spiritual authority she now claims. Critics, including church leaders, disapprove of these practices, but many who regularly attend church also secretly use traditional spiritual services.
Sometimes culture becomes a scientific thing. Eat the herbs, something you bite, and when you are talking, you win the case in court.
However, witchcraft isn't a guarantee of success.
Sometimes I also fail. I can't solve all of the problems and I just say, I can't handle this, just like in the hospital when death comes.
Honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. Divine all blessed greetings and salutations. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Voodoo Hoodoo 101, brought to you by, powered, produced, promoted, sponsored, and supported by NOIVD, New Orleans International Voodoo Day. Inspired by National Voodoo Day in Benin and led by Black community members, New Orleans International Voodoo Day is a day of collective remembrance and spiritual reparation that is preceded by a symposium and includes a procession to monuments at the sites of slavery in New Orleans, rituals to account for and seek absolution for the city and the country's participation in the institution of slavery, homage to those ancestors who suffered through and survived the transatlantic slave trade, and honor and appreciation for the achievements of those who came out of this oppression. 2 days for education, creative expression, elevation, cultural exchange, and above all, healing through authentic voodoo traditions handed down through generations. We offer a path to healing from the ongoing ramifications of slavery and racism in the United States. And we invite you now to come out and join us, volunteer, participate, sponsor, and support us for May 23rd and 24th, 2026 for our third annual, now international New Orleans Voodoo Day. We continue to invite you to visit our website for more information and coming updates at www.vodouday.org, voodooday.org, www.vodouday.org. And we're certainly thankful and appreciative for those of you who continue to show up and support us at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, weeknights here for this powerful podcast. So we're certainly grateful for your continued love, support, and participation. And we invite you to power up your webcams and your mics and join the conversation. Greetings and salutations to you and yours, Ray Alexander. Greetings, Daniel Neer. We certainly appreciate you. And Nina Lloyd, thank you for your continued support and participation. And I will be unmuting Elder Reggie Green Soap, the leader of Shrine of the White Cloth, as well as Queen Mother Sister Toni Martinez momentarily. All is truly and indeed a blessing. And no matter what you do, respect the voodoo. The aftermath of the Nat Turner Rebellion was felt far beyond Suffolk County, Virginia. Every slave-holding state was affected, and rumors spread like wildfire of vast conspiracies and approaching slave armies. The stories were printed and reprinted, and etchings and such as the one that I'm going to describe were published across the country The governments of various municipalities did what they could to stop these rumors and put the fears and wild speculation to rest, but with little success. For the first time, white America was shaken awake, and the notions of slavery as benevolent and slaves as docile were cast aside and never recorded or never recovered. As this study focuses on Virginia, the changes made to slave administration will be examined in detail. And it uh, um, has attached a placard of enslaved Africans basically killing white folks with hatchets and swords in what looks like the white folks' best clothes, because certainly slaves, house or field, would not have been dressed in this manner, but it all played a part in the propaganda. The horrid massacre in Virginia, Nat Turner's Rebellion by Samuel Warner, in authentic and impartial narrative of the tragical scene. And this would have been sent out as greeting cards, postcards, in celebration of not so much the uprising, but to fuel the anger of the white populace of the coming legions and armies of enslaved Africans coming to slaughter their families and their plantations. So it was a propaganda tool. And it is important not to focus too heavily on the specific laws that govern slaves, as on plantations, as we've discussed in previous podcasts, away from the prying eyes of the law, the enforcement of these rules could be spotty. This being said, laws provide a glimpse into the zeitgeist of a people by exposing the fears, concerns, and societal norms that they believe to be important enough to codify into law. Fears and concerns are especially laid bare when examining reactive laws put in place after an event or to combat a specific epidemic or threat, real or perceived. And this is certainly true for the history of Virginia's version of the Black Codes, which again, we've gone into detail about those codes specific to Louisiana and New Orleans. But indeed, there were Black codes that were regional and specific to cities, counties, states throughout the colonies. Throughout the history of Virginia, laws had been required to clarify the places or the place of slaves, the place of those of mixed ancestry, and the place of the state's ever-growing population of free people of color. Gill's 1969 work entitled Black Laws of Virginia shows a trend of increasing regulation and restrictions on both slaves and free people of color, but they also clarified and codified that free people of color were entitled to certain rights, primarily in terms of when they were granted freedom. Even in the lead up to the Nat Turner Revolt, the increasing restrictions could be seen in legislation, such as the 1831 law, which decreed that all meetings of free Negroes or mulattoes at any schoolhouse, church, meeting house, or other place for teaching them reading or writing, either in the day or night, under whatsoever pretext, shall be deemed and considered as an unlawful assembly, with a punishment not exceeding 20 lashes. Additionally, it stated that if any white person or persons assemble with free Negroes or mulattoes for the purpose of instructing such free Negroes or mulattoes to read or write, such person or persons shall, on conviction thereof, be fined in a sum not exceeding $50, and moreover may be imprisoned at the discretion of a jury not exceeding 2 months. This law went so far as to regulate how whites were allowed to interact with blacks, both free and in bondage. The laws put into place in the nearly 200 years of slavery before the Nat Turner Revolt show a slow and steady increase of restrictions and clarifications meant to ensure that blacks were kept in a certain social and economic position. With the failure of the Southampton insurrection, what had been a steady trickle became a sudden rush. And in 1832, the Virginia legislature passed 1832, Chapter 22, this act amending an act entitled An Act Reducing in One the Several Acts Concerning Slaves, Free Negroes, and Mulattoes, and for other purposes, did just that, added on to previous laws regarding blacks. This highly restrictive law states that it is enacted that no slave, free Negro, or mulatto shall preach or hold any meeting for religious purposes, neither day or night. Slaves and free Negroes who attend and religious meetings conducted by any free Negro or slave preacher, ordained or otherwise, and slaves who attended any preaching at night, although conducted by a white minister without the permission of the master, shall be punished. The slaves of any one master may assemble together for religious devotion. No free Negro shall hereafter be capable of acquiring ownership except by descent to any slave other than his or her husband, wife, or children. Free Negroes are not to carry firelocks of any kind. Permission hereto, therefore, granted authorizing justices to permit slaves and free Negroes to carry firearms in such cases is repealed. Slave and free Negroes are not permitted to sell or give away ardent or spirituous liquor. If a slave or a free Negro write or print anything advising persons of color to commit insurrection or rebellion, he is to be punished by 39 lashes. If the person offending be white, he is to be fined from $10 to $100. Riots and unlawful assembly, trespasses, and seditious speeches by free Negroes shall hereafter be punished with stripes as directed for slaves. If any white person or free Negro shall knowingly receive from any slave or free Negro any stolen goods, he shall be punished in the same manner as if he had actually stolen the goods. Free Negroes hereafter shall be tried and punished for felony in the same manner as slaves. This massive set of limitations on the behavior of both slaves and free blacks was meant to strike at the perceived causes of the Nat Turner uprising. And as I conclude this passage for today, more importantly, though, these laws displayed a loss of the trust that the white masters had in their slaves and a breakdown in the paternalistic worldview of slaves as happy and submissive, and slavery as a benevolent, if peculiar, institution. Reactive laws like these put in place after the Nat Turner Revolt are important, less because of how these laws themselves would have affected plantation administration, and more because they display the way people believed they should be reacting to the revolt and what measures they believed they should be taking. The 1832 laws helped to reflect the prevailing mentality where all blacks, slave and free, were to be feared. These laws were meant to directly target not just the perceived causes of the Nat Turner Revolt, such as liquor and black preachers, but also those things which had been more persistent problems, such as slave theft. It is not just these laws specifically, but rather the larger environment that spawned these laws that would have made life more difficult for slaves and free blacks alike. These changes would have had an impact on the way these slaves provided for themselves and supplemented the basic rations that were provided by the masters and the overseers. And as we explained in earlier passages here locally, it is well documented that Juan St. Milo, Maroon leader, as well as many other Maroons, not only maintained their jobs and their positions often, and then escaped for periods of time into the wilderness, into the Maroon camps, but this quote unquote slave theft was often the acquisition of supplies, rations, and resources to keep them survive out there in the swamps, in the wilderness. So I appreciate your attention again to this important passage. We will continue the effects of the Nat Turner slave uprising or slave rebellion, as it is described, and the welfare of 19th century slaves in southeastern Virginia, as well as the Deep South, as we continue again on tomorrow night. Please, greetings and salutations, First Priest, Wild Man, Armor Bearer, Brother Joshua Nylan Tanner, Queen Mother, Sister Toni Val Martinez, beloved, and Elder Reggie, Green Soap, leader of Shrine of the White Cloth. Please do come on in. We certainly do appreciate your time, attention, and your continued support.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us in tonight. And all the punishments that were being read for the different infractions of the many laws, I noticed that when it was a white person enabling a slave to do something that broke a law, the slave got a whooping, but the white man never did get whipped.
Mm-hmm.
They never drew his blood with the whip. He had to pay some money. And I guess, too, you might can rack that up to what they was going to do to slave other than whip him, because they couldn't find him. He didn't have no money. They couldn't make him work for no pay because he already was a slave. But still, to me, what's good for the goose was good for the gander. And maybe if they would have whipped them instead of making them pay fines, it wouldn't have been so many abolitionists, both men and women, because they raised money to pay the fines when they got caught breaking the many laws governing free blacks and slaves.
Mm-hmm.
So I just found that, they never got a whipping. They didn't get whipped.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get whipped. What say you, Elder Reggie?
Yeah, good night, Sister Toni. Thanks for passing me the torch. Good night, Divine Prince, Joshua, and everyone in the collective audience. I'm going to get to my topic, but Daniel Neal had posted today was Marie Laveau's birthday. So I looked it up, and it's true. Even though I run across her birthday, I just don't remember it all the time. But the question 10th. I wanted, September the 10th. Oh, I'm sorry, right. That was yesterday. Mm-hmm. Okay. But what it drew to my mind was Madame Marie Laveau was fond of St. Malo and the Maroons in the surrounding areas of New Orleans. I'm pretty sure in 1831 she got wind of Nat Turner revolt. I'm just running through my head. I wonder was Marie Laveau a fan of Nat Turner after the revolt and everything? It was just a question that ran in my head. But the main thing that I gathered from everything is Nat Turner his revolt was one that white people really looked at and studied, especially in the Virginia and the Tidewater area. They just put a lot of restrictions down, restriction on food, restriction on education, restriction on movement, restriction on people's ability to communicate with each other. As Sister Toni excellently said, even white people caught talking to slaves may have paid a fine, but a slave may have got whipping. If a free person was caught talking, they may have gotten a whipping also. So it was something in that Nat Turner revolt that really triggered white Americans at that time. That's what I see.
I think it was because of the size of the plantation they was on. Plus, like you said, like the Divine Prince read, white people had got complacent with slaves. They had got so, oh, they just little like my little children, my little pets. They don't mean me no harm. Oh, look at them. They just so cute. And they really didn't think that the slaves didn't want to be slaves. I think they had to settled into that system, got comfortable in that system, and in their mind, they put us as being comfortable with that system, and that's just the way it is, and that's the way it's always gonna be. And that Turner with those slaves and what he did, they didn't want white people blood shed now, but you had white people didn't shed white people blood, but you had black people who couldn't even look a white man in the eye shedding white blood. That put the fear in them. That
You
was
know,
a rude awakening.
that was also well illustrated in the TV series Roots. Remember, Kizzy was a slave gift, for lack of better words, to the little white girl. And then when you know, as they got older and Kizzy wasn't, you know, responding to her quite the way she did when she was a child, they sold her off. And the white girl was offended.
Yeah, she was like, Kizzy chose the boy over her by writing the paper, the traveling papers, because Kizzy could read and write. And the white girl was highly offended. Her Missy, her little Missy. And then also after, you know, the end of slavery, and they were real old up in the age, they ran across each other again. And a white woman claimed that she never had or knew a slave by the name of Kizzy. And that's when Kizzy spit in her water. But I think Nat Turner really woke them up as to, wait, hold on, you mean they don't want to be here living on my plantation, happy little pickaninnies? What? They want to kill us? And then too, I think at that time, news was starting to travel more quickly across the country than it was before, when little insurrections rose up. People often didn't hear about it for months and months, and they'd be like, oh, that happened last year. And they were like, oh, yeah, last year ain't nothing else happened since then. Oh, okay. That was unusual. They must have was doing something. But then in the Nat Turner era, news was traveling fast. Like the Divine Prince said, they were making these little postcards and spreading them out to get the word out. But they used to love this word, pamphlets. They used to do news pamphlets for, I guess, for the people who couldn't afford newspapers, or they were small and was easily distributed. And Nat Turner really put them back on their high horse, because like a Divine Prince brought up Roots. It was a scene in Roots where Chicken George, daddy, but it was also his master, had locked all the slaves up, and his wife was gone crazy, and he went crazy and locked all his slaves up in a barn after hearing about the Nat Turner revolt. And his wife didn't want no slaves in the house, and she didn't want them fixing their food, and they was all hysterical. And he was hiding in the house with a gun. that really put the fear in them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everybody. Elder Reggie, Sister Toni,
You didn't
audience
apologize.
and the listening audience. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
what you brought up first, Toni, Sister Toni, about the different punishments based on, based on the complexion. That just speaks to the foundation of the judicial system here in this country. I mean, that represents a landmark of how punishment, even to this day, is consequently different for us than it is for white folk. And it's started back then, back in those times and slavery times, and it's continued on and practiced to this day.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. We always got punished more and was always quick to be punished.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't our fault, somebody had to pay for it, and we were the scapegoat.
Yep.
And still are to this day.
Yep.
As now with the great thing of DNA testing is showing, somebody had to go to jail for the crime, no matter if they was innocent or not.
No.
But we
Not
gotta
matter.
close that case. We gotta close that.
But I like to just chime in once again from the reading that Divine Prince was doing. Nat Turner get killed in 1831. They begin the Civil War in 1861. So there's a 30-year difference from his death to the first shots beginning the Civil War. But we know abolitionists played a hand in getting that Civil War started. But I believe a lot of the abolitionists use Nat Turner revolt and insurrection as a premise to start changing the tide of those sympathetic whites who not necessarily was a friend of pro-slavery. He becomes, in a way, a martyr or a reference point for 30 years, which eventually leads to the Civil War. And that's what I also picked up from that reading.
Yeah, and in those 30 years, you got to look at the other insurrections that occurred between Nat Turner and the Civil War.
Yeah.
And the proximity to the Haitian Revolution.
What'd you say, Divine Prince?
And the proximity in terms of timing to the Haitian Revolution.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. The Freedmen riots here in New Orleans.
So there was panic.
1856.
Yeah. But I think I was leaning a little more toward John Brown, abolitionist type movement, and he sometimes he quoted that Nat Turner revolt. And like I said,
what year was that in?
Which one?
John
Brown.
Yeah, that was in like the 1850s, going into the 60s. I think they killed him in 1860. I went down to West Virginia, where Harper's Ferry, where all that happened at.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they killed John Brown in 1860. But the abolitionist movement, even when you go back to oh man, my mind is eluding me. The guy that they try to make state for state in Missouri, what was his name? Oh, he was a slave, but he moved to a free state.
Oh, you talking about? Come to me.
Not the dude that was 12 years a slave, huh?
No,
yeah.
no,
not him.
No. He part of the Missouri Compromise. I just have so much in my head. He was part of the Missouri Compromise. If you bring one slave, they were trying to get a 14 slave state between Missouri and I believe a slave state and a free state was trying to come into the Union. Okay, let's move on from that. Someone else take it over. My mind got. I'm getting.
I know you got me thinking about it too. I'm racking my brain too. But I know what you're referring to because it was a big to do a big point of discord between
Yes.
how many slave states and how many free states it could be. And
Yes.
they didn't want a lot of free states.
Right, because they have this thing called Bloody Kansas, which is
You talking about
happening.
Frederick Douglass? Was you talking about?
No. This guy was a slave, but his owner became an abolitionist, and he moved his family to the Missouri area, which was going to be a free state, and it got argued in the courts.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna laugh when we get his name.
I know we're gonna be like, oh yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, I can
That's who that was.
The Missouri Compromise, and his name gonna come up. But that was a strong point of this abolitionist movement. The abolitionists put down a lot of pressure on the legislature in DC at that time to free these people.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, and the only thing I was saying was that Nat Turner, in 1831, really gave the abolitionists lit a fire underneath the abolitionists to start moving toward getting slaves free.
And another point that I don't think we really look at a lot, the number of white people that actually picked up arms to free slaves, like John Brown. John Brown wasn't the only one. You also had this guy named Jones, and they did a movie about him called The Free State of Jones. I mean, we talking about people that were willing to put their life and their children's life on the line to free Black people and to say that slavery was wrong. We know more about, because a lot of people didn't know about the man Jones until he made the movie. But everybody mostly knew about John Brown because even white people was afraid of John Brown before he took up arms to go to Harper's Ferry and start, the revolt. He was quite a scary looking fella. And he didn't mind voicing his opinion.
The free state of Jones, that was dealing with Mississippi.
Elder Reggie.
There you go.
Thank you, Daniel Neal.
That's it. Thank you. I could not think of his name. That's it. I knew we would laugh once we got it. But all that whole movement right there was with Dred Scott. I couldn't remember his name. But that whole movement was being orchestrated by abolitionists who just was beginning to sour on slavery like that. They was not going to allow slavery to go farther west than what it was. They just wasn't going to let it go out west.
And that was a big contention.
But I like to talk about the elephant in the room. Yeah, if we could, and it's still dealing with revolt, because the killing of Charlie Kirk has the nation in a grip right now. Yes, it has the nation in a grip right now. But this man was spewing hate from every which corner he could, and somehow when people have opposition against that, they're getting death threats. They're getting almost their social media accounts canceled and all this. But this man could go on platform after platform, debase women, the LGBT community. He can just debase almost anybody at will. And yet the powers that be was supporting this. It's almost the same thing when we're dealing with slavery. The power that be at hand always want things their way, and that's it. Anybody say anything or rev up against that, they are sworn enemies. And it's almost like history repeating itself right now.
It is, because they don't know anything new to do. A lot of people don't realize Charlie Kirk didn't just come up out of nowhere. Charlie Kirk came up out of a dream from David Duke to take the sheets off and put them in suits. When he went to the Klan and said, we got to educate our children and get them in politics and corporations, because all this time we have been keeping them locked in by fear. But in the future, they're not going to fear us. So we're going to have to find another way to keep them in check. And that's by putting on a suit and becoming lawmakers and politicians. And a lot of people don't understand, he wasn't a politician. He was just a regular old person. But why is flags flying half-staff for him? Why is all this problem? Because he was that regime's youth minister. He was the one that was going out educating and collecting the next generation of racist bigots. You got to keep it going. Somebody got to go out and recruit, like Hitler's youth recruiters, and went out to the young people on the college campuses to grab them and get them in. Those people at that college, they said they had a petition for him not to even come there. He was invited there by one of the racist, bigoted groups on campus.
I understand,
So now, and the next day, 7 historical black colleges get threats?
Yes.
What we had to do with it? He was killed in the whitest state on the map, one of the whitest states on the map. He was killed by a white man, one of their own. That's white on white crime. And Elon Musk don't make the statement, if they can't get along with us, then it's time to go to war. I want to know what they and with us he talking about, because us over here, the melanated us's ain't had nothing to do with what happened to him. They literally got politicians calling for war, but I want to know who they gonna go against, who they warring against.
Who do you fighting? Yeah, that's the question. Who you fighting?
We ain't got nothing to do with that.
That is the question.
They've been trying to bait us all year with these protests and these marches. They've been trying to get us into confrontation all year long. And for the most part, we have campaigned to fall back. And our people have fell back and not took to the streets. So now they're coming another way, are race baiting us to take to the streets. But no, we gonna stay right where we at and mind our business, because all them marches, that was white people made that mess. It was time for them to clean it up. This thing right here, a white man started it. We gonna point out, no, we ain't got nothing to do with that.
Yeah, we gotta hold
and
our
we
power.
gonna use social media to get our point across.
We gotta hold our power, because that's what they want us to do. They want us to react. And they got a plan for whatever reaction we got. You can believe that. National Guard has already been instituted in certain places, and it might be here now. We might not even know, but it's in our best interest to hold our power.
You know, New Orleans already got the National Guard base down there at the barracks, but they've been here ever since the guy did the terror attack in the French Quarter, but not as visible anywhere else except in the French Quarter. But they never left from that, really. But he got them in strategic places. They want a reason to call martial law. They want to get into a scribble with a large group of blacks in the streets to call martial law. But we not going to give them that satisfaction.
Yes, Sister Toni, I agree with you because of legislation. It was legislation that freed the slaves, give them national civil, give them rights of citizenship and all this. And if something like that do happen, they're going to repeal some of these laws off the books, where you find yourself almost through the law back in some type of slavery type system. And this is all they're needing is something to give them the right reason to do it. They need a not a
The
victim
justification.
right now. Justification. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Like they use the Bible to justify slavery. They need something to get the approval of the white people that normally would not approve. They got people sitting back saying, oh, that's wrong, that's wrong. But if they give them some evidence where they can say, oh, well, I see what they're talking about now. Well, they're right. They should do it. They should do it. It's out of hand. So they got to do some kind of justification. But we're not going to be baited into that like we was baited into the civil rights marches. We're not going to be baited into that. And Charlie Kirk, he one of 100. He was just the one that had the mic at the time. In a few days, ain't nobody going to remember him but his family. And the next one, favorite son, is going to come up to do the job that he was doing. He 1 in 100. This is what David Duke did for the Klan. He saw the businessman Ku Kluxer, the politician, the lawyers, the judges with that Klan mentality.
It still exists.
Yeah. They just put suits on it.
Put suits on it, put blackface on it. All other types of things. All complexions.
You said blackface.
Oh, they do blackface.
I've seen so many black people on social media crying because the man got murdered.
I mean,
so many black people.
I ain't seen that yet, but that's crazy.
Oh, you go on TikTok, you gonna see it, boo. I didn't get to sleep till 3 o'clock this morning watching it. I couldn't believe it.
But it speaks to the mentality and the ideology. Like I listened to some of his stuff and the ideology. I remember he was talking about empathy, and I was just like, empathy is to sympathize with someone's feelings. You know, you might not have similar, you might not believe in with somebody's way of thinking or whatever, but he was saying that he has no way of, he only sympathizes. I'm like, how you sympathy is only from your own learned experience or your own experience you have in your own life. Everybody has different experiences. Now, for you to be unempathetic and not wanting to hear someone's feelings that is outside of your living and outside of your experience, that's kind of bigoted. It ain't kind of bigoted, it's really bigoted.
It is.
The way he presented that, I was just like, man, is this new age? This is a new age Klan.
Well, a rose is still a rose. It's the same basic tenets. You got to know what the Klan tenets was in order to see them in action today. You have to study the past because they don't come with nothing new. They're not that creative.
No.
They're not that creative. That man talked about black people like a dog. He talked about Asian people like a dog. He jumped up at one of his little come debate me and called this man a gook on camera. He say what he wanna say. Well, I say like this, good you gone. But I do know it's gonna be another Charlie Kirk. Somebody gonna take his place. We always gotta keep our head on a swivel and our ears open. And once we find them, that's my job. I find them and point them out. Here go one. Here go one. Watch this one. That's what I do on social media.
Well,
our show have run over.
But the one thing on the Charlie Kirk thing that kind of have me disturbed, if I could before I close out, the Vice President J.D. Vance took Air Force 2 to Utah to receive this guy's body, to fly his body from Utah to Arizona. This man was not a politician. No. He was not. He was nothing but a socially influencer. How did he get these privileges? It shouldn't sit well with tax-paying Americans. And the one thing, and I have no sympathy or empathy for him. I have a cousin of mine. She was born female, but she transgender into male, and I love her dearly. And Charlie Kirk, he went after people like my cousin, who I love dearly, as some kind of non-human entity, some kind of just somebody you could just talk about that don't have feeling, that it's not human in a way. And his last words, he spoke on the transgender shooter who did the shooting in Minnesota at the Catholic Church. And then he was about to go into gang violence, trying to say the Black and Latino community do all the gang killing. And that's when the bullet hit him. But somehow in all that, karma showed up at the right time, at the right place. That's my personal political view. It's not the view of the show. I don't want the show to get in no kind of trouble like that. But it's just disturbing the way this guy functioned and moved around. With that, I say, lest we forget. I'm a little okay. The spiritual medicine of voodoo brings healing and relief from the shackles of slavery that binds the master and the slave to the same chain of social division. With that, I said, we gotta continue to pray, continue to hold our voodoo high, and continue to fight for freedom, because freedom is not free. Ashe. Good night, everyone, and we love you all.
Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow night.
Yes.
Odabo. Good night.
Good night.
At the beginning of this, maybe I was more skeptical. As the days have gone on, I'm not sure what I think anymore.
I felt that maybe it wouldn't affect me if I personally didn't believe in it.
So, knowing what you know now, would you still get cursed?
I'm seeking out a curse, a hex to put on myself.
A curse could end your life. You're literally begging the devil to knock on your door just to prove to you that God's real.
He could curse you with stupidity, but we think you got that down.
Despite the warnings, I'm investigating the real-world effects of dark magic.
Looks like you have a lot of love and a lot of opportunity. You are going to cause damage to that.
How do you feel after doing this?
evil.
That must be quite seductive.
That's the power you're calling on. The devil, right? Quite seductive.
I'm going to enter into a pact with Satan.
Señor Satán, Lucifer, presentamos a este hermano. Con tu fuego purifica.
Wyong is pretty much the epicenter of all black magic. People are very scared to even talk about it.
Y'all better not call me at 2 o'clock in the morning talking about this man is dead. I don't want to hear that.
I have this physical feeling that something bad is coming. What have I done?
You're going to have to find faith in this in order to undo it.
Please, allow me to show you something.
They say I'm crazy and that might be true. I got this white in my DNA, yeah, I'm coming for you. It's time we turn the tables, flip these motherfuckers on you. I wanna see you hanging from trees, it's time you pay for your dirt and your showtime. You created the monster, you created the beast. Now all this savagery you just gon' reap. I'm coming home, daddy, to the plantation, and I'm taking the lives of everybody, including the children, on some Nat Turner. Oh, do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. I met my girl Harriet at the gate. If you wanna know how she doing, yeah, she's straight. But she had one question: when we gon' get up? All that talking tough, yeah, we don't walk it tough. She got it locked and loaded, got that piece up on her side. She looked me in my eyes and said, "Meet you ready to ride?" Moving forward, you gotta use both eyes. Watch your front and watch your back. Keep your hands up on your gas. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. He sit at the table, but he don't order no bacon. He greet me in those words, assalamu alaikum. Got them glasses on his face and them waves in his head. He go by the name of Detroit Westside. He looks me in my eye and says, "You only get one try. Know that your biggest opposition will come from the inside." I know you wanna love them all, but don't even try, because they'll smile up in your face while plotting your demise. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. children of your ancestors that weren't punk bitches.